Hello everyone, welcome to the shop for another little project on a 1982 Honda CT110. I've been doing a bunch of videos on an 86 model. This one I've just been doing a lot of the same projects, but now we've got something new. This particular bike has got a tail light and brake light that stay on all the time. So we're going to diagnose those electrics and figure out what's going on with the tail light today on Motonexus. All right, so we got the tail light off so we can take a look at the bulb. And I'm just going to switch the key on. And you won't be able to fully see this in the camera, but both elements are on at full brightness. And we should only have one on, which is the running light. The brake light should only come on when you press the foot brake or pull the handbrake in. So we're going to go diagnose what's going on here. So I've taken the right side cover off and just pulled out the battery and this support for the flasher and the other electronics. And really all I want to do is just get easier access to this switch and its wiring. This is the rear brake pedal taillight switch. And all that happens is when you depress the brake pedal, it pulls down on a spring, which pulls a pin in this plunger inside the switch, and it makes contact. So it's either an open or closed condition. This is all adjustable. So it's possible that this switch is not working at all and it's just stuck in a position that's keeping the light on, or that it's adjusted wrong and it's actually making contact as a result of that. So what we want to do is just test the switch and get it out of the equation. So let's remove the switch from the bike and then we'll test it. So just as a tip, it isn't actually necessary to remove the switch from the bike in order to test the wires. I just think it's going to be easier to see on camera if I do that. So all I'm going to do is follow the wire off of the switch up inside, and there's two wires. One is black, that's your 12-volt power, and the other is a green with a yellow stripe. So we'll just pull those apart. They're just bullet connectors. And then at the other end, it's just this spring that needs to be taken out of the end of the plunger. And that can be a little fussy, but once you get up inside of the spring, it's pretty easy. And then the whole thing just lifts out. So let's take a look down here. So I'm just going to use my multimeter. And all I want to know is the switch working? Do I have open and closed conditions in this switch? So I'm going to turn my multimeter around to the continuity setting. That's where you see the little speaker icon, and usually it'll say 200. Let me show you that up close. So where we want to go is over to this setting here where you see the speaker icon. So that'll give us a tone when the switch is acting properly, when it makes contact. So all I'm going to do is, it doesn't matter which side I put these wires, my probes into. I'm going to put a probe inside of one, hold it to the other. Okay, and I'm getting no tone. I'm going to pull on the plunger. Good solid tone. I hope you can hear that. Okay, so this switch is working properly. This is not our issue. So the place to go is probably going to be the front brake. So we'll take a look up there. So the front brake has a switch built into this wire that comes off of the handbrake. I should note that this bike has a drum brake in the front. So most any of these older Hondas with a drum brake are going to have a cable just like this with the switch built in. Some of them are mounted underneath. If it's a disc brake that's hydraulic, you're going to have a reservoir sitting up here with your brake fluid, and the switch is going to come off of there down to your disc brake. So this is a little simpler to work with. But what we want to do, so I don't have to take all this apart, what I want to do is just open up the headlight, and we'll just test the wire the same way we did on the other one. And we should get a condition where there's no tone until you pull on the handbrake, and that would open up this, allow this switch to make contact and give us a tone. So if we get a tone without pulling the handbrake, we know that this switch is the problem. We can take a deeper look at that. So let's get the headlight opened up and we'll test that switch. All right, so to open up the headlight, there's just one screw down here at the bottom. Please use a JIS screwdriver so that you don't trash these up. I've already had to replace this screw and the nut behind it. Somebody put just a hardware store nut in here. We had to get that out, get the original part, and get a new screw to fit it. So JIS screwdriver, please, so you don't tear up these screws. They are not Phillips head. Now that little nut, I just set the headlight right down here in the forks. This little nut that's inside of here can fall out to the back. So I like to just, while I'm working in this situation, just put the screw in a little bit. Now it's not going to go anywhere. All right, so let's follow this wire down inside the headlight bucket. Here it is. There's the black wire and the green with the yellow tracer stripe. So we'll just unplug those. And while I've got them in my hand, here's a habit of mine, is just to wrap a piece of yellow tape or any kind of colored tape around these ends so I don't forget where they go. There's a reason we call this the bird's nest. All right, so won't be any problem recognizing those. All right, so here's our two leads. Let's get our multimeter. Again, the multimeter is set to the continuity setting. It looks like a little speaker icon and usually says 200 under it. First step is always to make sure the multimeter is working. Okay, we're good there. So we're just going to touch a lead to each one of these wires like we did before. It doesn't matter which one you put where. Oh. Okay, there's a full sound. And like I said, it doesn't matter. Let's put the red one on the black wire and the black one on the green wire. Same thing. It doesn't matter when you're doing a continuity test, but I'm getting a full tone and I should not be. I should only get a tone when I pull on that brake and activate the switch. So this is our problem. Okay, so that test just told us that the problem is in this switch. This switch isn't functioning right. There's a little tab at the end of the switch that gets pushed in and out on a spring. And my guess is we're missing that little tab. It's broken off after all these years. So let's go ahead and open this up. We can get this cable pulled out pretty easily. The way to do this, just slide this rubber cover off of the hand grip. Just get it out of the way. Let's loosen up the brake cable and just pull it out. Okay, so now we got our brake cable out of the way and the hand lever can move freely. We're gonna need to get the lever off in order to easily get that cable out of there. So I'm just gonna loosen this up. There's a little nut on the end of my bolt. I don't know if this is original or not. It doesn't look, this looks like a hardware store nut. And then this is a special bolt. This bolt has a unthreaded portion that's polished, and then the threaded portion that goes through, and the bottom of the hand grip or the perch here is also threaded. So the nut on the end is just to keep the bolt from coming back out. But you can see it's a specialized Honda bolt. This should be cleaned up and have a little grease put on it. And there's our hand lever. All right, so now we're looking at the right side grip. The lever's been removed, and this is the switch on the end of the cable right here. And there should be a little tab sticking out of there because there's a spring and a little brass plate on top of the spring in there. When you pull the hand grip, the spring pushes that tab out, closes the circuit, and allows the brake to work. But you can see that our tab is missing. There's nothing sticking out. So the way we deal with this, just come up here. There should be a little plastic strap on here. Just loosen that up. You don't have to take it off. Let's get the wire out of the headlight bucket. Just pull that out. And then what we're going to do is just push it through. See, it's coming out already. There it goes. Okay, that's all there is to it. So there's our culprit right there. We don't have a part of the switch that's very important. So this spring is pushing out all the time, which is making the circuit stay on all the time. So that's why our tail light is on all the time. So this is going to have to be replaced. And as soon as I can get the part to arrive, we'll put all this back together. In the meantime, a couple of things I like to do. This is all gunked up in here with old grease and dirt. I'm going to clean this out. I'll get all the gunk off of this, but I'll run a thread tap through this hole to clean up these threads because it was a little hard taking that out. And then I'll clean up the bolt as well with a tap, and we'll put some new grease on the non-threaded part so that it moves more freely. So we've diagnosed the problem and found and isolated the problem to this switch. Now we just got to put the new part in, and our brake light should be working fine. All right, guys, we got our new front brake cable for the brake light. This is the brake light switch. And what I want to do before I install it, first of all, let's have a look. You can see the little tab here I was talking about. That's the button that activates the switch. So what we want to do, got the multimeter turned to 200 with a little wave signal, which tells you that that's for continuity. And I'm gonna just connect, I'm just gonna hold, it doesn't matter whether you put the black lead or the red lead on either side. I'm just gonna hold the two probes of my multimeter onto these contact points, and you can hear it's giving us a tone. And when I press the button in, that's the brake not being pulled out, right? Not being pulled. So when that button is in, that's off. When it's out, you can hear it ring. I hope you can hear it. Here. Off. On. So we have a working cable. So let's get it installed. And this bike will be ready to roll, and our brake light should be fixed. All right, so we're going to start by just feeding the electrical connectors through that hole in the perch. Just pull it through carefully. When you get to the switch, there's a little tab on this side, on one side, that goes into the notch in the middle of the brake perch. That keeps it from spinning around. I'll push it in carefully so don't break it. All right, so the switch is fully seated into the brake perch. So let's get our brake put back on. And just for an update, I ran a tap through the threads on the perch and a die around the bolt to just clean these up and make it much easier to spin them in. You know, over time, they just get banged up. And so anytime you take it apart, takes anything apart on these bikes, you know, give yourself a chance to fix it up a little bit and clean up those threads. Just chase the threads on nuts and bolts and you'll give them new life. Just be careful you don't strip anything. All right, so just spin that nut on. We're good there. Now, there's a little plastic cable tie on the handlebar, which I've loosened up. So we'll just feed it through there. We'll snug that down in a minute. And then it just goes down behind the speedometer. And then there's a hole in the back where we pulled this cable through. And we'll just feed it through the back of the speedometer, okay? Now, if you recall, when I took this apart, I put a piece of yellow tape on each of the connectors inside that connect to the wiring harness. And I did that because I had to order this part, and it's been several days since we were in here working on this. So it's easy to forget where things go. So this is the green wire with the yellow tracer. I can pull that piece of tape off and push that connection in. Sometimes they're a little stiff and they want to bend. That's where a really skinny pair of needle nose comes in handy. There we go. And then the black wire connects to this other taped in, right in there. And that gets us our 12-volt power. That should have our brake light working. Let's go check. All right, so we've got our tail light all buttoned back up. New cable with the new switch installed. Let's give it a try. There's the tail light. That's the brake light with the front brake and with the foot brake. And that's it. So we got our brake light fixed. It's not too dramatic, as you can see, but it's just a little 6-volt system. So anyway, pretty happy with that. This bike's buttoned up and ready to move on and get back to its owner. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope you got something out of this video. You know, that same procedure can be used on any number of bikes and even your cars. I hope that this was helpful in some way. If you liked the video, found it entertaining at all, or in any way helpful, please click the subscribe button, click the like button. It helps us out so much. The more we get subscribers and the more likes we get, the more time I can spend making more of these videos for you. I've got a bunch of videos shot that I haven't uploaded yet. We'll get to that real soon. Thank you again, and visit Motonexus.com. Thank you very much.